Hello and welcome to Mourners Culture. Good morning, Syl.
Yes, welcome to moreness culture. Moreness, grain, not monist or monist or mourners. Moreness, right? More with the suffix ness.
Morenews.
Yes, I don't know if
Morenews.
that's
Yes.
right. I don't know if that helps for grain or not, but
But
let's hope so.
we keep trying.
We
Yes,
keep
we
trying,
are
right?
trying.
Maybe it will learn. You know, my accent when I say moreness, I'm saying MORENESS. That's what I'm. All right, we here, and we're ready,
Okay.
and we're alive, and we're back, and we're excited, and we're happy, and everything is good, right, Beena?
Yes. Yes, and
Yeah,
welcome to Mourners Culture Grain. Hopefully I'll see you soon.
yeah,
And of
yeah.
course,
Did
welcome.
Grain not start already? It did start,
No,
Grain. Why is it not there?
no, no. Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Oh,
and welcome to Mourners Culture, everyone who is going to
oh,
join us
oh.
live.
Hold on 1 second, Meena. Hold on 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. There we go. Okay. No, all that we're saying for Grain, it didn't matter. So, hello, welcome, Grain. And Grain, welcome to moreness culture. More with the suffix ness. Moreness. Moreness. Moreness culture. I've been,
Yes.
all right, now you continue with your welcome.
Yes, okay. Welcome to Mourners Culture, everyone who is going to join us live and will watch us recorded later. We are back again. We were busy taking care of some really important stuff, of course,
Yeah.
and because everything in our life is about appropriateness. What is appropriate? What is
Always.
right now
Always.
in this
Always.
moment? What is appropriate? And this is what we were doing, but it
Yes.
doesn't mean that okay we were not missing our lives, because from these
Oh, we were.
lives we I also always get so much more out of it. And I
Oh,
was
yeah.
thinking about this, that why I'm always keen about these things. For some people it might be weird,
Yeah.
because they said okay, who can keep always have that consistent same energy for learning and growing. For me,
Well, we can.
it can, okay. For me, a harsh reality right here is, if you don't have, then you are not actually into learning. And this is the same thing about anything else. Like people say, oh, I love to do painting. When you love to do painting, like really it's your passion, then why you are not doing it continuously? Why you get bored with that? Why you get tired with that? Why you get into procrastination and everything? It's all about understanding. Once you are actually make yourself
Yeah.
aware what you really truly want in your life, and keep following that, you will never get tired. Of course physical energies are different things, sometimes we do get, but not like, oh yeah, I've been doing that. Okay, now 5 paintings and I'm done. No, the ideas are different, but actually understanding yourself is the real crucial key. When you don't need to struggle with procrastination once you will really find and start pursuing what you really truly want to do in your life.
Yeah.
If you want to just sleep as much as you like without guilt. If you
Yeah.
like to play
It's
as much
appropriate.
as you can without having any guilt.
Yeah.
And the same applies to awareness, learning, and growing also. That if we
Well,
do.
that's assuming you have developed your integrity. Then you must trust your integrity. Yeah,
Yes, yes. Of course,
that's
it will
a
go
big
into
point.
more depth and, of course, details. But today I was just, I was keen to share that if
Well,
whenever you feel that I'm getting tired of this, please do reconsider all your choices and your thinking and your assumptions, because we assume
yeah,
a lot. And somehow, from culture, from society, and from history also, we are so much impressed by others, like in the superiority concept. We don't want to acknowledge that, but this is the superiority paradigm right there, that oh, the writers are great, oh, the poets are wonderful, and the artists are wonderful, and of course like politicians and other, which means that by default as a
everybody except me. Yeah,
yes, the comparative mindset just say that, oh, they all are good, I must also do all these things, like must. And even though I don't have any inclination towards that innately, organically, but still I'm going to just push myself to do. And then,
yeah,
of course, I will get into procrastination because this is actually not my priority. This is not I really want to do in life. We don't act, never actually, I can say that. Okay, mostly we never acknowledge what we really truly want to do because of this superiority
yeah,
paradigm influence. We don't consider that as really good thing. Whatever I like, okay, yes, if I like to just clean my house, this is my thing, this is what I feel good at, this is what I like to
yeah,
do. But no, this is something really okay, not so good thing. Okay, it doesn't have any productivity. And on top of that, the especially in this realm where everybody wants to help others. We want to be someone who can help others. Okay, now I got some profound idea. Now I must help others. You don't need to. You don't need to. If you want, yes, truly, if you really want to, do whatever you want to. But then it should not be, then it must not be. There must not be any stress about it. There must not be any procrastination, overload of work, or burnout, or anything. It's not going to happen if you really know what you truly, truly, truly want to do in your life. What is your niche? What is your understanding of life? Not influenced by any culture, society, or family, or any ideas.
one,
Pure, deliberate choice. That's the key to avoid any procrastination and things like that.
yeah.
Simple. Okay, that was my thought of the day. I was keen to share and
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Where were we last, Beena? Do you remember?
no, 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 no.
Uh,
My bad.
uh, uh. Oh, me too. Oh, we were there with the animal, with the hideous animal. That's where we were. Wow, good for
Oh,
me that I remember. Remember?
okay.
They were looking and they saw this animal on the ground and it started to shriek. And Carlos was about to see it. Wasn't a regular thing, and he was about to freak out. Uh, where are we now? Knowing where it was and finding it is a different thing.
You are live on Instagram. I will see you there.
Yeah, could be.
Okay.
Let me see. Yeah, yeah, we there. We there. I don't know why you don't see me.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I'll type hello all.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Oh, yeah, remember they went and then at some point they Carlos saw this animal, right? Remember?
Yes. Yes.
Uh, I remember shrieked. That would be sort of fairly unusual. Although I think Carlos has shrieked a couple of times before. I'm just searching for the word shriek to find it. Never, 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 never. No.
What are you doing? It's still not
I'm
sharing
just
screen.
searching for it. Yeah, just searching for the place in the file
Okay.
so we can continue reading. I mean, I remembered exactly where we were. We left right there where he was he looked at it and, oh, it's some animal. And Don Juan said, yes, it's an animal. It's a dying animal. Right. But I remember it said the animal shrieked. Yeah. But I thought, oh, that would be an easy, thing to find. But no, I'm finding other shrieks here as well. It's not that one. Ah, okay. Animal is going to be many searches. I don't know. I scrolled through the chapter and I couldn't find it. This is. Oh, let me try dying animal. That may be. Wow, sometimes simple things just not get there. Oh, yeah, we must assume responsibility for being in a weird world. In a weird world. I nodded my head affirmatively. That's Carlos now. Don Juan continues. We're not talking about the same thing. Oh. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah. The animals show it again. All right, so let me screenshot. All right, here we are. I found it now. The key is to find a to find a phrase that's unique. Dying animal was the unique phrase. All right. Right. We'll just start from here. What is it? Right. But this is you now, right? So will you read, please, Beena?
Okay. What is it?
Oh, you got to whisper.
Okay, what is it?
I don't know.
He whispered back as he peered at the object.
What does it look like to you?
I told him that it seemed to be a dog.
Too large for a dog.
He said matter of factly. I took a couple of steps towards it, but Don Juan stopped me gently. I stared at it again. It was definitely some animal that was either asleep or dead. I could almost see its head. Its ears protruded,
Yep.
like the ears of a wolf. By then I was definitely sure that it was a curled up animal. I thought that it could have been a brown calf. I whispered that to Don Juan. He answered that it was too compact to be a calf. Besides, its ears were pointed. The
Mm.
animal shivered again, and then I noticed that it was alive. I could actually see that it was breathing, yet it did not seem to breathe rhythmically.
Yeah.
The breaths that it took, were more like irregular
Nice.
shrieks.
Nice.
I had a sudden realization at that moment. It's an animal that is dying.
You're right. But what kind of animal?
I could not make out its specific features. Don Juan took a couple of cautious steps towards it. I followed him. It was quite dark by then, and we had to take two more steps in order to keep the animal in view.
Watch out. If it's a dying animal, it may leap on us with its last strength.
The animal, whatever it was, seemed to be on its last legs. Its breathing was irregular. Its body shook spasmodically, but it did not change its curled up position. At a given moment, however, a tremendous spasm actually actually lifted the animal off the ground. I heard an inhuman shriek, and the animal stretched its leg. Its claws were more than frightening. They were nauseating. The animal tumbled on its side after stretching its leg and then rolled on its back. I heard a formidable growl and Don Juan's voice shouting.
Run for your life!
And that was exactly what I did. I scrambled towards the top of the hill, with unbelievable speed and agility. When I was halfway to the top, I looked back and saw Don Juan standing in the same place. He signaled me to come down. I ran down the hill. What happened? I asked, completely out of breath.
I think the animal is dead. Carlos doesn't ask, why did I have to run for my life and not you?
The heat of the moment, actually.
Right, right. Now, I realize that, but again, it just, we need to
Yeah.
train our brain to look at implications and to observe and notice, right?
Yes.
I'm trying to do
Weird.
this with my subconscious. My
Okay.
subconscious in my dreams does what Carlos does. It just accepts everything, no matter how ridiculous and preposterous. No, it's okay.
We advanced cautiously towards the animal. It was sprawled on its back. As I came closer to it, I nearly yelled with fright. I realized that it was not quite dead yet. Its body was still trembling. Its legs, which were sticking up in the air, shook wildly. The animal was definitely in its last gasps. I walked
If
in
you
front of
ask me, sorry, if you ask
it.
me, this animal is having a very over melodramatic death scene. Yes?
Yes.
Overacting, yeah, animal. Sorry.
I would definitely look at my hands. Sorry, I'm really I'm not getting it.
Yes,
Like why Don Juan is
yes,
not doing this? Sorry,
yes,
Carlos.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Anyway,
yes, yes, exactly.
okay. Its body was still trembling. Its legs, which were sticking up in the air, shook wildly. The animal was definitely in its last gasps. I walked in front of Don Juan. A new jolt moved the animal's body, and I could see its head. I turned to Don Juan, horrified. Judging by its body, the animal was obviously a mammal, yet it had a beak, like a bird. I stared at it in complete and absolute horror. My mind refused to believe it. I was dumbfounded. I could not even articulate a word. Never in my whole existence had I witnessed anything of that nature. Something inconceivable was there in front of my very eyes.
Ah,
What?
something, something.
Something inconceivable was
Mm.
there in front of my very eyes. I wanted Don Juan to explain that incredible animal, but I could only mumble to him. He was staring at me. I glanced at him and glanced at the animal, and then something in me arranged the world, and I knew at once what the animal was. I walked over to it and picked it up. It was a large branch of a bush. Oh, it had been
Yeah.
burned, and possibly the wind had blown some burnt debris which got caught in the dry branch and thus gave the appearance of a large bulging brown animal. The color of the burnt debris made it look like brown in contrast with the green vegetation. I laughed
Let's
at
just
my
pause right
idiocy.
there, Beena. We
Yes,
are seeing rationalization and justification. And Carlos says it. I rearranged my world.
yes,
He is going to now obviously end up thinking, oh, he just had a misperception. But Don Juan is going to say, no, what you saw was also real, but you rearranged the description. The lesson from Don Juan and what Carlos did is a profound act of magic, but Carlos is only going to see it as a mistake of perception. Right? He's not
yes,
going to see it as the magic it truly is. Right? So it's a very big deal. It's a very big deal. All right. I just wanted to lay the premise here. Right? Yeah.
yes.
Please continue, Angie.
Okay. Where was
Oh,
I
I'm
laughed
pleased to
at
be
my
doing this again, Bina. I sorry, just to interrupt. I'm just so enjoying this, and I missed it
oh
that
yes.
we couldn't come for a few days. So just to emphasize that.
Okay, I laughed at my idiocy and excitedly explained to Don Juan that the wind blowing through it had made it look like a live animal. I thought he would be pleased with the way I had resolved the mystery, but he turned around and began walking to the top of the hill. I followed him. He crawled inside the
One
depression.
mistake here, Carlos. Sorry. Carlos assumes his misperception is shared by Don Juan.
Yes.
Highly unlikely, Carlos,
Yes.
by the way, right?
Yes.
Just to pay attention again to implications, right? Okay.
Yes. He crawled inside the depression that looked like a cave. It was not a hole, but a shallow dent in the sandstone. Don Juan took some small branches and used them to scoop up the dirt that had accumulated in the bottom of the depression. We have to get rid
They
of
have
the
to get rid
ticks.
of the ticks.
Sorry, yes. He
Ah, we
said,
can read it together.
he signaled me to sit down and told me to make myself comfortable because we were going to spend the night there. I began to talk about the branch, but he hushed me up.
1 second. Grain. When Beena is reading she is reading Carlos's parts, right? It's not Beena who began to talk about the branch, but Carlos, right?
Yes. I began to talk about the branch, but he hushed me up.
What you've done is no triumph. You've wasted a beautiful power. A power that blew life into that dry twig.
He said that a real triumph would have been for me to let go and follow the power until the world had ceased to exist.
Read that
And he
whole
said,
sentence again, please, Beena.
he said that a real triumph would have been for me to let go and follow the power until the world had ceased to exist.
All right. So Don Juan says a lot of things, but seldom does he give a specific instruction. This is a
Yes,
specific instruction, correct? We have to pay attention to these, right? To let
yes,
go and follow the power until the world had ceased to exist.
yes,
In other words, for the whole thing to cut. Maybe that's what logic is in the dreams. Maybe I'm kind of doing that in a way in the dream, but not going far enough, right? In other words,
yes.
you following the right. You following the power, which is the weirdness, whatever it is. You're going with it, but you have to
Hmm.
go with it all the way until the world ceases to exist. And that's maybe how I end up waking up in the dream by following that as far as it goes. So I'm waking up too soon. Maybe my instruction to my subconscious to say wake up in the dream, it's causing me to wake up, not wake up in the dream, because my subconscious is probably aware that, well, this is also a dream. So okay, I'm awake in this dream. Yeah, maybe it's not distinguishing between the two. Reality and dreams are both dreams, at least as far as I see it. So that's very interesting, Beena. That's very significant. Does that make sense to you? So I have to
Yes,
reset the logic in the dreams to just kind of let it run and basically implode, right?
yes,
Because that's the thing with those dreams. My dreams, that the logic is all messed up. And if it does continue, it can't. It's like when people try to explain a wonderful business idea and you say, oh, yeah, it's great. Can you tell me more in detail? And they start to go in detail and then they're like, oh, no, it won't. Oh, no, no. And then the whole thing implodes, right? They realize that their ideas, they didn't think it through. And I don't mean when people have a good idea and you're just being overly critical. I mean when it's like truly like it cannot happen in actual reality, right? Uh, that happens often. So same sort of thing. You have to continue until it implodes. Yeah, which will stop the world, right? Yeah. All right, read that sentence again, please, Beena.
oh,
He said a real triumph.
yes. What you have done is no triumph. You have wasted a beautiful power.
Oh no, you're in a different place. Oh, all right, okay. No matter. You can read from there. That's fine. Sorry, carry on.
Okay. You have wasted a beautiful power, a power that blew life into that dry twig. He said that a real triumph would have been for me to let go and follow the power until the world had ceased to exist. He did not seem to be angry with me or disappointed with my performance. performance. He repeatedly stated that this was only the beginning, that it took time to handle
Actually, stop there,
power.
Beena. That
Yes,
you picking up on something very significant. That
yes,
that Carlos uses this word performance.
yes.
And in the superiority paradigm, performance, it's like everything is a performance to people. They're never real.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why he uses the word performance. Not his actions, no, his performance.
Wow.
It's inappropriate, the word. When you perform, you are doing something that is deliberately,
Exactly.
other than what you would normally do. It's a performance. That's what the word means. How is this a performance in any way? Even in creative writing, it's inappropriate. With your actions, with your decisions, with your interpretations, with your assumptions, all of those would be more appropriate, right? Or all of them
Yes.
I would put in there. Yeah. But it's
Yes.
it's in Carlos's mind, right? Whenever something where you are expected to do something, it's a performance. Whenever you are under evaluation, it's a performance, like job performance. You see? It's an inappropriate word, but look how that is, right? You get the job evaluated on your performance of your job. A different meaning of performance, but still somewhat inappropriate. It's fascinating, Bina. It's fascinating to pick up these little clues, and that's why you add that little reaction to it, right? It's wonderful.
Yes.
It's wonderful. I'm
Because like
emphasizing because I'm emphasizing you catching something, right? So my
yes,
emphasis, it's a reinforcement of the ability and the skill, and I like it when you do it for me too. Right? We
yes.
build each other that way. Wonderful, Bean. All right, let me scroll to the top and then you continue.
Okay.
Okay,
He
yeah, sorry.
okay, okay. He repeatedly stated that this was only the beginning, that it took time to handle power. He
Yeah.
patted me on the shoulder and joked that okay. He joked earlier that day I was the person who knew what was real and what was not. Wow. I felt embarrassed. I
Okay,
began.
now, see how so, Bina, you were
Yeah.
talking about humor, the humor of the new nobility and mourners culture humor and teasing, right? So he joked earlier that day, I was the person who knew. It's kind of a tease, but it could have been a scold as well. It could have been a
Yes.
jab. It could have been, sticking it to Carlos, but he does it in a joking way, right? Okay, Carlos feels embarrassed, but it's a joke. He could have, if it had been scolding or even more negative, like a critique, then what would Carlos likely have done psychologically? Especially if it was a critique, he would have become defensive, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And a lot of
Yeah.
people don't realize the lack of effectiveness of negativity. We are so trained to it because our whole education system, our whole upbringing was based on negativity. We didn't get rewarded for doing things. Well, sometimes maybe a bit here and there, but in general, it was do things or get punished,
Wow.
right?
Yes.
Terrible system. Absolutely, because it makes you defensive. It's like you saying, "Well, you did it wrong." Yeah, okay, I didn't mean to do it wrong. All right, like in this case, if you joke about it, yeah, all right, you were so sure yesterday. Okay, it's kind of teasing. It gives Carlos a chance to actually feel appropriate about this, which is, all right, embarrassment is never appropriate to my effect. Just to be a realization, awareness. Yeah, you're right. Okay, I'm going to change now. From now on, I won't be so sure about my things, right? Again, you see, look at this, what Carlos does psychologically. He's not in this mindset of learning and updating immediately. Like I said, if he had been criticized, he would have been defensive. He's still defensive, but he's just defensive now in a non-direct way, right? What does he do next? Please continue.
This is very okay. Uh, I felt embarrassed. I began to apologize for my tendency of always being so sure of my ways.
Right? You see there, Beena?
Yes,
Apologize. Same thing. It's still a defense. Yeah. He's not saying, wow, wow, wow. Never mind you're right, Don Juan. It's never mind the Don Juan. Wow, I never realized this before. And this needs to change. That's the appropriate response in that sector. Right, Beena?
yes,
In
yes,
other
that's
words, an update of the awareness. Update the program. Say, wow, wow, yeah, right. I need to run an update of my program, of myself. I need to update, upgrade, update. Yeah, very important.
yes.
What you've
All right.
done is no triumph. You wasted a beautiful power. Is that where we were? No. Oh, no, sorry. It doesn't matter. The branch was a real animal and it was alive at the moment the power touched it. Since what kept it alive was power, the trick was, like in dreaming, to sustain the sight of it. See what I mean? And here we get back to my dreaming. To sustain the dream. That's the challenge.
Hmm.
Sustain it long enough for it to implode. I'm kicking out. I'm letting go. Like Carlos, he kicked himself out of the moment. Right? He didn't stay with. Make sense?
Yes,
Very interesting. Very interesting. See what I mean? To
yes,
sustain the sight of it. Yeah, that's the trick. See what I mean?
yes. Okay, start from it doesn't matter. You read.
Oh, it doesn't matter. That branch was a real animal and it was alive at the moment the power touched it. Since what kept it alive was power, the trick was, like in dreaming, to sustain the sight of it. See what I mean?
I wanted to ask something else, but he hushed me up and said that I should remain completely silent but awake all night, and that he alone was going to talk for a while. Wow.
Wow!
Yes. He said that he said the spirit which knew his voice might become subdued with the sound of it and leave us alone. He explained that the idea of making oneself accessible to power had serious overtones. Power was a devastating force that could easily lead to one's death and had to be treated with great care. Becoming available to power had to be done systematically, but always with great caution. It
Yeah,
involved making one's presence obvious by a contained display of loud talk or any other type of noisy activity. And then it was mandatory to observe a prolonged and total silence. Okay, please say that properly. Still, I just lost that.
Oh, a prolonged a controlled outburst and a controlled quiet.
And it was mandatory to observe a prolonged and total silence. A controlled outburst and controlled quietness were the mark of a warrior. He said that he said that properly I should have sustained the sight of the live monster for a while longer. Wow. In a controlled fashion without losing my mind or becoming deranged with excitation or fear. I should striven to stop the word. Pointed we pointed out after I had run up the hill for dear life, I was in a perfect state for stopping the world. Combined in that state were fear, awe, power, and death. He said that such a state would be pretty hard to repeat. I whispered in his ears, "What do you mean by stopping?" He gave me a ferocious He gave me a ferocious look. Before he answered that, it was a technique practiced by those who were hunting for power, a technique by virtue of which the world as we know it was made to collapse.
Right. So to implode, right? This is what I was saying in the dream. Where, in other words, if you can kind of imagine it like in the movies, right? You see this sometimes. You see somebody's in a scene and then there's like a portal or something and it sucks it all in and suddenly they're somewhere else. Yeah, see what I mean? Like the whole
Yes,
world kind of gets pulled in like that. However you visualize it, it doesn't matter. It just means that the reality, it kind of crumbles, implodes, it goes into itself. It goes down into nothing. It dissolves, it disintegrates. It doesn't matter the mechanism. The end result is the same thing, right? But it's useful to have such a visualization in anticipation so that we have something to kind of lock it onto. The actual experience is going to be different, but it doesn't matter. At least we have a bridge now. So these conceptualizations, don't take them as completely fact. Take it as more or less something like that, and that's enough for the brain to have a something like that. Then when you get there, it's not completely foreign. We need those bridges, right? We need to build these bridges. Don Juan, I think, actually mentions this now that I think of it. Well, I said I'll just put my own logic there, but it's pretty interesting. It says that. All right, so this is a good chapter. I love this about them. But are we satisfied with this, making ourselves accessible to power, right?
yes, yes,
It's not two things. To make yourself accessible, right, is that controlled outburst and the controlled quietness. And in other words, people going about their daily, or not daily, I mean, their normal activities, they are campers or whatever. They might be noisy and they might be quiet. Yeah. The
yes,
difference is that those are seldom controlled. They're not never deliberate. It is the deliberate controlledness that says, hey, I'm making myself accessible to power. I'm making myself available. See how the intent, in other words, right, Beena? You with me? The technique
yes,
isn't so critical. The technique is just an easy mechanism for demonstrating that you are doing this deliberately. You're not just a person who's out there making a noise like campers, and then they stop making a noise, they go to bed and they're quiet, or they're just sitting around the campfire quiet. They run out of steam or whatever. See what I mean? It has to be controlled. That's the key. Right? Make sense? As a communication technique,
yes,
right?
yes,
Because I
yes,
know if I'm listening to sounds, right, and we practice capital H hearing, and we have developed an acute acuity of hearing. Yes. I mean, like when you came on today, right? You hadn't even said a word, and just the way you before you said the very faint sounds, I could hear that those things were different, right? That's what I mean, acuity. So we have the skill because that's how we survive. Yeah. Because you survive by hearing things weren't right, because you can't always see everything in the jungle, but you can certainly hear it, right? Hearing is 360, sight is not. So we have incredible discernment skills when it comes to hearing, and we need to practice this. And you can think for yourself. If you were listening, you were just somehow, able to listen to, let's just say, campers,
yes.
and you heard just the sound recording, and you heard this
Mm.
controlled noise, controlled sound, you would know it to be different to normal, regular camping sounds of noise and silence. Yes? I feel confident I'd be able to tell the difference. Do you, Beena?
We have to take care of these type of things, like really cautious.
Sorry, I don't understand. What do you mean?
Yeah, I was just saying about that actually it is harnessing the power. So,
No, I meant, would you be able to hear the difference? Sorry, just to
okay,
finish
say
that
it
point.
again. Say it again, please.
Would you? Oh, Lindsay's here. Hey, Lindsay. Hello, hello, hello. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. That's
Hello,
wonderful,
Lindsay.
Lindsay. I was saying, if you were played two recordings, one of just regular campers, noisy campers, and then silent, right? They're very
Hmm.
noisy, and then they run out of steam like kids do, and they're sitting by the fire all silent. And someone like Don Juan, A warrior, in other words, who is deliberately making a noise and deliberately being silent. Would you be able to hear the difference?
No.
Ah, I think you would. I'm confident that you would.
This is like,
Anyway,
wow.
I don't think it's very hard to. I think most people actually would be able to tell the difference. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Especially if they
Okay.
knew what they were listening for.
Hmm.
Right? They might
Okay.
not if you didn't give them a clue. Oh, you're listening for. Well, you just said, what's the difference? They might not have the word control, but if you knew to listen for control, you would absolutely be able to tell the difference between the two. Yeah, absolutely. I have no doubt about it. I know it's hard to say I would when you don't have actual experience about it, but I'm pretty sure. All right, very cool that Lindsay's here. Very cool. Lindsay, let us know what you think. We want to hear what you think. It's important. It's important. All right. So stopping the world, right? Uh,
Yes.
this is being accessible to power. That's where the real power is. Because this particular description of the world, this particular dream, is one in which we do not have direct access to the power. Why? Because the power is being used to sustain the reality. Does that make sense, Beena?
Yes.
So we
Yes.
need to have a different reality in one which power is available to us. Okay,
Hmm.
we are actually using the power, but we're using it to spin this reality. We're using it to be a part of this, and it's a collaborative reality, which we're all seeing the same thing, right? So we're doing this in conjunction to everybody else, right? And but we're spending all the power to do this. It's going to come up later again. I'm laying the foundation. This is it's something that takes many repetitions and iterations to really grasp the fullness of it. But it comes before. But I'll lay the foundation. We'll get there later. So we're going to switch to a different topic here. Now, mood management, as you know, Bina, in way of impeccability, is a huge deal. Yes, it's a
Yes.
massive, great big deal. Yeah, and
Yes.
are you self-moodicating? Remember, I made that meme with a cow, and the cow says, the little speech bubble comes out, are you self-moodicating? That's the trick. We want to learn to self-moodicate. Yeah? We take our moods from the world around us. We respond to the world. If it's a sunny day, I'm happy. If it's a rainy day, I'm miserable. Or the reverse, or whatever, depending on how you relate to these things. And that's the fun thing. If rain was miserable, then every single person would be miserable. But the fact that some aren't just means that you are able to me, by implication, it implies that you're able to choose. If somebody else can be happy, why can't I? Yeah.
Yeah.
You might say, well, they built differently to you, but that doesn't mean. And also, I know that I've changed my mind on some things which I used to like or not and find miserable and not, and now I find them happy. So if you can change your mind on some things, you can change your mind on all, which means you can learn to choose your moods. And this is one of the ultimate skills we can develop to be able to self-moodicate. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. All right. Still waiting to hear from you, Lindsay, beside the hi, but thank you for the hi. I'm keen to know what you think, Lindsay. I'm always keen to know what people think. Just like, wow, that's weird, that's crazy, that's foolish, that's brilliant, that's awesome, that's nonsensical, whatever. The whole range is up for grabs. All right. So the mood of a warrior. Yeah. Please read me.
Yes. I drove up to Don Juan's house on Thursday. Sorry, the mood of a warrior. I drove up to Don Juan's house on Thursday, 31st August 1961. And before I even had a chance to greet him, he stuck his head through the window of my car, smiled at me, and said,
We must drive quite a distance to a place of power, and it's almost noon.
he opened the door of my car, sat down next to me in the front seat, and directed me to drive south for about 70 miles. We then turned east on the dirt road and followed it until we had reached the slopes of the mountains. I parked my car off the road in a depression. Don Juan picked the low hills, crossing. Okay, Don Juan
Hang on.
picked
No, no, you skipped the line there.
because it was, yeah, because it was deep enough to hide the car from view. From there, we went directly to the top of the low hills, crossing a vast, flat, desolate area. When it got dark, Don Juan selected a place to sleep. He demanded complete silence. The next day, we ate frugally and continued our journey in an easterly direction. The vegetation was no longer desert shrubbery, but thick green mountain bushes and trees. Around mid-afternoon, we climbed to the top of a gigantic bluff of conglomerate rock.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like a wall. Don Juan sat down and signaled me to sit down also.
This is a place of power. This is a place where warriors were buried long time ago.
At that instant, a
Yeah?
crow flew right above us, cawing. Don Juan followed its flight with a fixed gaze. I examined the rock and was wondering how and where the warriors had been buried when he tapped me on the shoulder.
Not here, you fool. Oh, no, I was saying that wrong. Not here, you fool, he said, smiling. So, not here, you fool, smiling. Down there.
He
Look where
pointed
it's
to the
appropriate to look.
he
Oh,
pointed to the field right below us at the bottom of the bluff, towards the east. He explained that the field in question was surrounded by a natural coral of boulders. From where I was sitting, I saw an area which was perhaps 100 yards in diameter and which looked like a perfect circle. Thick bushes covered its surface, camouflaging the boulders. I would not have noticed its perfect roundness if Don Juan had not pointed out to me. He said there were so there were scores of such places scattered in the old world of the Indians. They were not exactly places of power, like certain hills or land formations which were the abode of spirits,
abode.
but abode of spirits, but rather places of enlightenment where one could be taught, where one could find solutions to dilemmas.
Wow. Wow, cool. All you have to do is come here or spend the night on this rock in order to rearrange your feelings. Wow.
Are we going to spend the night here?
I thought so. But a little crow just told me not to do that.
I tried to find out more about the crow, but he hushed me up with an impatient movement of his hand.
Let's just pause right there. Right?
Yes,
And I feel that in the past, I've done the same thing that Carlos. Don Juan says, the little crow just told me. Our first instinct is to say, wow, what do you mean? It can explain more. But let's look at this from a really different perspective shifting technique, right? Or apply the technique of perspective shifting. And let's look at what is our intent in that moment, right? Don Juan says, I thought so, but a little crow just told me not to do that. How can we react and respond to this differently that will give us the satisfaction of our intent? If I just stop and take a power pause and just reflect on this, I'm basically going to rewind. Oh, right at that moment when when we were saying right, Don Juan said, "This is a place of power. This is a place where warriors were buried long ago." At that instant, the call right was going and it was flying in a particular direction. Okay, so for Don Juan, now I'm going to reconstruct and look to satisfy my objective, which is to understand how the crow at that moment, he was talking about a place of power, and obviously his intent was to be here, But then at that moment when he spoke about it, there was the, okay, I see now how, and it was flying in the direction, it says nope, because it's at that moment, and the crows generally give warnings about things. Okay, so I get it. I can figure it out for myself. And this is more empowering than asking the question and having Don Juan figure it out. What would be more appropriate then is to take my figuring out and check it with Don Juan. Yes, Beena? As a mechanism for learning.
Yes. Yes.
When we figure it out for ourselves, it's more real, it's more cogent, it's more intimate, it's more personal, and it's stuff that stays with us because we figured it out. Even if we figure it out wrong and we update it, okay, we understand the logic of it. We are relying on logic and understanding rather than on memory. If Don Juan just says what it is, you just have to remember now. You don't know if what he says unless you figure it out yourself. He may just say the biggest load of nonsense. It has to make sense to you. And that's the point of figuring it out for yourself. To have it make sense to you. Uh, you understanding how Don Juan is getting a message from the crow doesn't mean that it's going to make sense to me personally, but I understand how it makes sense to Don Juan. See? Right? And from that, I can maybe get it to make sense to me. Make sense, Beena?
Yes.
What do you
Yes.
think, Lindsay? If you're still here, what do you think? As a technique, and this is what is in way of impeccability, I use this technique of figuring it out for yourself, coming with the repeat backs and the takeaways, right? It is
Yes.
critical for actual real learning. It's making it your own, making it your own. That's what underlies repeat backs and takeaways. Which reminds me, we have to follow up with Chipper. But okay, Abina, I'll be back in a second. You continue reading, please.
Okay.
Yeah, bring it.
He said that, he said there were scores of such places scattered in the old world of the Indians. They were not exactly places of power like certain hills or land formations, which were the abode of the spirits, but rather places of enlightenment where one could be taught, where one could find solutions to dilemmas. All you have to do is come here, he said, or spend the night on this rock in order to rearrange your feelings. Are we going to spend the night here? I thought so, but a little crow just told me not to do that. I tried to find out more about the crow, but he hushed me up with an impatient movement of his hand. Look at that circles of boulders. Fix it in your memory, and then someday a crow will lead you to another one of these places. The more perfect its roundness is, the greater its power. Are the warrior's bones still buried here? Don Juan made a comical gesture of puzzlement and then smiled broadly. This is not a cemetery. Nobody is buried here. I said warriors were once buried here. I mean, they used to come here to bury themselves for a night, or for 2 days, or for whatever length of time they needed to. I did not mean dead people's bones are buried here. I am not
Wow.
with cemeteries. There is no power in them. There is power in the bones of a warrior, though, but they are never in cemeteries. And there is even more power in the bones of a man of knowledge, yet it would be practically impossible to find them.
Ah, so he hasn't said what is buried there, right?
Yes, you just say that, okay,
Ah,
they used to come here and buried themselves
right.
here. That's it. And not
Ah,
for very long.
that's right. That's right. I missed that, right? That's right. And this is going to come later. This is a power technique, this burying oneself. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Who is a man of knowledge, Don Juan?
Any warrior can become could. Any warrior could. I could, not can. Any warrior can become a man of knowledge. It's not a past tense thing. It's still possible now, right?
Okay, okay, let me read it again. Who is a person of knowledge, Don Juan?
Any warrior could become a person of knowledge. Yes, thank you. As I told you, a warrior is an impeccable hunter who hunts power. If they succeed in their hunting, they can become a person of knowledge.
What do you... He stopped my questions with a movement of his hand. He stood up, signaled me to follow, and began descending on the steps east side of the bluff. There was a definite trail in the uh, almost perpendicular face leading to the round area. We slowly worked our way down the perilous path, and when we reached the bottom floor, Don Juan, without stopping at all, led me through the thick chaparral to the middle of the circle. There he used some thick, dry branches to sweep a clean spot for us to sit. The spot was also perfectly round.
I
I,
intended to bury you here all night, but I know now it is not time yet. You don't have power. I'm going to bury you only for a short while.
I
For
became
Carlos.
very nervous with the idea of being enclosed and asked how he was planning to bury me. He giggled like a
Carlos,
child.
Carlos, when you go to sleep and you put the blankets around you, especially when it's cold, are you not enclosed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay. I became very nervous with the idea of being enclosed and asked how he was planning to bury me. He giggled like a child and began collecting dry branches. He did not let me help him and said I should sit down and wait. He threw the branches he was collecting inside the clean circle. Then he made me lie down with my head towards the east, put my jacket under my head, and made a cage around my body. He constructed it by sticking pieces of branches about 2.5 feet in length in the soft dirt. Okay. The branches, which ended in forks, served as supports for some long sticks that gave the cage a frame and the appearance of an open coffin. He closed the box-like cage by placing small branches and leaves over the long sticks, encasing me from the shoulders down. He let my head stick out with my jacket as a pillow. He then took a thick piece of dry wood and using it as a digging stick, he loosened the dirt around me and covered the cage with it. The frame was so solid and and the leaves were so well placed that no dirt came inside. I could move my legs freely and could actually slide in and slide out. Don Juan said that ordinarily a warrior would construct the cage and then slip into it and seal it from the inside. How about the animals? Can they scratch the surface dirt and sneak into the cage and hurt the man?
no, that's not a worry for a warrior. It's a worry for you because you have no power. A warrior, on the other hand, is guided by his unbending purpose and can fend off anything. No rat or snake or mountain lion would bother him.
What do they bury themselves for, Don Juan?
For enlightenment and for power.
I experienced an extremely pleasant feeling of peace and satisfaction. The world at that moment seemed
Hang on
to
a second. Consequence, consequence, consequence. And this I find very useful. Carlos, right now you're experiencing peace and satisfaction. Don't you have any memory that a few moments ago you were all nervous? And don't you think to yourself, wow, that was kind of unnecessary to do that?
be.
Don't you feel foolish for that idea? Okay, if you're going to go around feeling foolish, don't feel foolish, but update and realize that your assumptions, you feel nervous, and you do this on a regular basis, and it turns out not to get you anywhere. In other words, you was worrying, right? that it was going to be stressful, bothered, whatever, unhappy, unpleasant. It was a worry. And this is the problem with worry, that people never update to say, oh, my worrying was all for nothing. It actually turned out to be very good. And I won't be so worrisome next time. I'll be a bit more open and not just assume it's going to be negative. Very critical. So again, if we build this discernment into our mindset, we start to connect what we do with what went before. And this never happens with warriors. The other kind of warriors, worry pots. Because if you say warriors and warriors, it sounds the same. I call them worry pots. That makes it very clear what it is, right? Worry pots never go back and reconnect the actuality of what happens with their previous worrying. They never realize that they keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. It never materializes, or very seldom, right? So they're wrong all the time, but no, that doesn't make any difference. They keep doing it over and over and over again. I saw this with my mother, with her friend on the phone, talking about stuff, worrying about stuff. And it never happened. I used to keep track of it. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Very interesting, right? All right. Please continue,
Yes.
Beena.
I experienced an extremely pleasant feeling of peace and satisfaction. The world at that moment seemed at ease. The quietness was exquisite and at the same time unnerving. I was not accustomed to that kind of silence. I tried to talk, but he hushed me. After a while, the tranquility of the place affected my mood. I began to think of my life and my personal history and experienced a familiar sensation of sadness and remorse. I told him I did not deserve to be there, that his world was strong and fair and I was weak, and, and my spirit had been distorted by the circumstances of my life.
Okay. Okay. First thing, yes, if you are thinking of your life, yeah, and your personal history, and you have sensations of sadness and remorse, right there, the next thought is, oh my God, I need to change.
Yes.
I have to change. Secondly, this is the point of way of impeccability. When we learn to live with impeccability, which doesn't mean you're perfect, doesn't mean you're always right. It simply means that you do things in such a way that you would never feel sadness or remorse about your actions. Maybe a bit of sadness, all right, but you don't need to feel the sadness, but certainly no remorse or regret or recrimination. None of that. Why? Because you were impeccable at the time. Doesn't mean you're always right, but you're always impeccable. There's a big, big difference between being impeccable and being right. And being impeccable is doing everything you can do, being thorough, being conscientious, being diligent, being scrupulous, yeah, taking appropriate care, doing due research. That's all what impeccability means. If you do that and you make a decision and it turns out wrong, okay, I did whatever I could, and I was satisfied at the time. I couldn't do any more, right? Or I mean, there might have been, but time didn't allow it. Time, energy. Okay, I'm satisfied. Yeah, so be it. That's it. I'm willing to live with my decision, right? That's what impeccability is: the willingness to live with your decision. You can't have any remorse, regret, recrimination, etc. Right? You may be a bit sad that it didn't work out, but if you pay attention, and this is something Don Juan doesn't mention, which is an extension, we've got to take things further, right? If you pay attention to those times when you were impeccable and things didn't go the way you thought it was, and you said, wow, if you understand the point and purpose of everything, which is the development and enhancement of awareness, then you see that what did happen was absolutely a fortuitous mistake. It turned out to be brilliant. It turned out to be excellent. Not in the way you thought. It may even have been difficult and stressful at the time, but if you went with it and didn't make it stressful, if you got into it, and it was brilliant. Like for instance, when we ended up in the desert. When we got there, we had no idea that it was going to be all desolate and nothing. Right? We just thought there was going to be the regular stuff there, right? A typical farm, and so we could have been all stressed, but we realized that we had gotten there because of attunement. We gotten there because of force of circumstance. It was the right place to be. So we were positive being there, and we saw the fortuitousness of the supposed mistake. We didn't even think of it that way. It was just wonderful, right? And that's a different way to live. See, impeccability, it doesn't mean you always go where you think you're going. But if you are impeccable, wherever you go is wherever you want to be. This is part of
Exactly.
attunement and impeccability. Impeccability is doing whatever is appropriate. Yes, whatever is right according to your conscience. And therefore, wherever you go is wherever you want to be. A very profound statement there. Right? Living impeccably means wherever you go is wherever you want to be. Or wherever you end up. Right? It's a different perspective on life. We're not so caught in this me. I want this, and if I don't get it, then I must be unhappy. That's childish. That's what children are. Right? No. Appropriateness says, whatever I end up getting, because I have been impeccable, whatever I end up getting is a gift, capital G gift, and it's something that I'm inordinately happy about. That's why I want it. See? I wanted to be in that desert. It was a fantastic experience. All right. Please continue, Beena. Please continue.
Okay, I think that
What,
okay,
what
we
do we
can.
want to? Yeah,
Yes,
we can pause it. Yeah. Okay,
yes,
what
we
do
can
they
pause it.
bury themselves for, Don Juan? That's where we're going to end, and we'll start there tomorrow, right?
Yes,
Because that's like a new
yes,
topic now. So this is
exactly.
very good. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
All right. Very good indeed. Any takeaways from the speaker?
Okay, I have. I was thinking because it might not be directly connected to this, but in the east side of the world, like in India and Pakistan and other, uh, people do visit shrines and where the people of knowledge, a person of
Yeah.
knowledge is being buried. And I was like, okay, according to Islamic
Interesting.
ideology, there is nothing there. Like, okay, like why to because people get into the worship thing idea that, oh yeah, so that person is there and it is going to fulfill my prayers and all sort of things. But actually this could be the places of power, that okay, yes, where the power is could be enlightenment. And of course, like you can take energy from there. But again, when you let yourself loose without having enough and appropriate awareness, it actually leads you towards really messed up ideas. People
Correct.
get.
You have to have the impeccability first.
Yes, because otherwise, like all
Yeah.
it's all nonsense. Then, or you get more, you actually lose more power of making
Right.
appropriate
Right.
decisions and be yourself and independence. You lose everything,
Yeah.
and then you become a follower, a blind follower, and then you just cannot do anything about it. So anyway, this is something I was thinking about when Don Juan was saying. And the other thing is that intuitively we all have, I assume that we all have that, okay, some have more or more obvious or more clear to them, that intuitively you know that where the place of or the space uh, for power is. Okay, I feel comfortable there. Okay, you just start walking and then suddenly you said, okay, this is where I want to stop. If you just keep driving and you see that, okay, you will intuitively, your body will feel more comfortable at some point.
Yeah.
And this is something I think that, okay, it might not be obvious to everyone and not clear, but we all have this understanding where the energy is neutral, or maybe where the you actually need actually has what you really need. So these type of things, this understanding, again, what Carlos was doing, of course, as a new person in this, he is trying to find logical reasons for that. And even when we say, oh, I need logical reasoning for that,
Well, logic within his bubble.
exactly, this is what I was about to say, that he was
That's the
insisting
problem.
that oh, logical, it should be logical. And we assume that when someone is saying, oh, it should be logical, that oh, this is in totality. No, because it's an open-end thing, and of course the
Right.
logical reason is valid till you are not getting
Right.
more awareness about it.
Logic itself stays the same. but logic is contextually dependent, and that's very important to understand.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Very important to understand. Right? I mean, take the famous illogical statement of the Vulcan Spock, whose entire culture revolves around being illogical. Yes. What is his most
Mm.
famous quote? Emotions are illogical. That is an
Yeah.
illogical statement.
Yes.
Yeah. If I'm getting angry or upset or afraid, all emotions, and this helps me to survive. Like, okay, this stimulates me. Like Carlos, he was very emotional at that time. Right? He had fear and death and awe, and he ran away from when Don Juan said, "Run for your life." Right?
Yeah.
Emotions made him work that way. That was very useful. And Don Juan was saying, okay, if you take it even further, but just to survive, just to get away from that monster, that was very, very useful. So it's a logic to it. In other words, at that point, it was logical to be emotional. You can't say emotions in themselves are illogical. They cannot be by just the understanding of logic. Logic has to have cause and effect in a relationship, and yeah. So you can't say emotions, or it depends how they are used. And to say the actual quote probably would be, typically the way people use emotions, they start thinking about things, and then it makes them illogical because they let the emotions override their brains. And we have to be careful of this. So we have to understand, when it comes to listening to your body and listening to yourself, that you also have to listen to say, am I being overly emotional? Am I right, letting this distort my perception? Right. So when we are listening to our bodies, we have to take that excessive emotionality out of it. Emotionality itself is not illogical, but if used inappropriately, it can make us illogical. Right? So it's just fascinating. I just love this. It just really tickled me when I first saw it way back in that the probably very late 70s, very early 80s. This or emotions are logical. No, sorry, Spock, Mr. Logic, your logic is completely flawed. It's just very amusing. Yeah. And it went through the whole series, and in the next series too, they kept this up, and they never ever figured it out that this is a stupid thing to say, and everybody just bought into it. That was even more amazing to me. Nobody else ever questioned it. I've never, ever seen anywhere. Many times on forums and comments and posts, you have many things about. Like, I finally saw somebody say, "Oh, where the toilets on the Enterprise." Right? I just saw it
Mm.
the other day. That always intrigued me. I said, "Well," I actually replied. This my reply to this was always, "Well, this is taken care of by the transporter. You need to go, you just go to the transporter and super, it just takes it right out of your bowels, and life is easy. It's brilliant. Much less messy and clean and everything. It's just fantastic. And it's automatically done whenever you use the transporter. So there you go. There's a logical answer for it, in other words. I
Yes.
just like that idea. Yeah. Well, first of all, they had those one-piece uniforms at one point. That's what made me think of it at first. I said, man, those things to get in and out of, they may look wonderful, but you have to go to the bathroom, especially if you're in a crisis, you're in a big space battle and everything, and you've got little time, but you have to go. That's going to take way long. And it's like, you have to basically take the whole thing off in order to go, no, come on. It didn't have any, it was like a one piece all the way to the top, like a stretchy thing, right? So you had to basically take your arms out of it to get, no, come on, man. This is grossly. And then later they changed it to two piece. I guess the actors must have said, sorry, this stuff is just too much of a hassle to get in and out of. Anyway. We have to learn to think a little bit more with discernment and look at implication, consequence, and not just accept stuff. Right? There's a lot of stuff around us that makes no sense whatsoever, but we accept it. And to me, this is horrifying. Like the statement, "Oh, logic is emotions are illogical." Yeah. Well, in that particular case, I didn't accept it, but I've been other times when I have accepted such stuff, and I never really thought about it. Well, yeah, okay, I just went with it. Yeah. I mean, I understood what Spock meant, right? And that
Mm.
sentiment I went with, right? I mean, generally people take their emotions and it allows it to rule their lives, and it makes a mess of their lives because they lose sensibility. But that's not because their emotions are wrong. It's because they have no impeccability. They have no integrity. That's why. Just inappropriateness, in other words, the problem. Any more comments, Bina? This is wonderful. I'm just enjoying the discussion.
Oh yes, oh yes, yes. So okay, let's end it here, and we will continue tomorrow. And then before we
Yes.
go, as always, please do pay attention to your life algorithm and your online algorithm, and make deliberate choices. Deliberate choices are the decisions you are making right now and writing your future as you are living right now. The consequences of your past deliberate choices. Okay, if you are not making deliberate choices, even then you are making choices because you
Yeah.
are choosing.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
choosing not to pay attention. You're choosing not to be thorough, and you're choosing not to actually take your power back to yourself. These all are choices, and we are making it anyway, even when we are not choosing to do so. So please do pay attention and make deliberate choices. Wherever you are going to pay attention, universe is just going to maximize it. That's it. Life is easy and simple sometimes. Yes, we make it
Yeah.
complex.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Bina,
Yes.
I've trained my life algorithm to pay attention to anomalies. And I think
Wow.
what I want to do is say in my dreams, these are anomalies.
Hmm.
I don't see them as anomalies, but they are. Yes.
Hmm.
Make sense?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And to treat all of dreaming as anomalous. And that's the point of it. It is there to say, it's an anomaly, pay attention. And when you pay attention, what is the message of it? The anomaly is, it's like Don Juan says, ride that power and implode the world. So I have done this before. When I looked at my hands, all of the stuff in the dream kind of went away, yeah, and the world imploded. Right? It's just kind of nothing. It was pretty cool. Yeah. I didn't know what
Yes.
to do then, which was a problem. Anyway,
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
brilliant,
Bye for
brilliant,
now.
brilliant. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye, Beena. Bye bye.